So how am I doing with my overall net worth, given how challenging 2024 was and all of the debt that I accumulated in 2024? If you're wondering what I'm talking about, please watch this video here that gives you my debt breakdown for 2025. So how am I doing on my net worth? Let's find out together. On this channel, I talk about all things finance, career, and business. I am a financial strategist who really focuses on empowering women to find their own unique path towards financial freedom and long-term financial success and stability. And on this particular channel, I'm not just giving you knowledge on how you can grow with your own finances, your career, and your business, but I also take you to the journey of how I myself am making it happen in my life. So in this particular video, you get to see my net worth. I'm very transparent so that hopefully somebody out there can be inspired, learn from me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to minimize myself and we are going to get started. It's been a while since I've done a network update video, and even this spreadsheet is probably going to change, but let me give you a quick overview of what this network tracking dashboard is. So on this particular spreadsheet, I kept track of my net worth throughout all of 2023, and in 2024, this year, I've only done it twice. I used to do it on a monthly basis, but when it comes to your net worth, I don't think you need to be or should be tracking it on a monthly basis, just because a lot of what you're tracking here are big ticket items that don't really fluctuate a whole lot on a monthly basis. Now, somebody like me who's paying down debt, I might be able to see that shift on a monthly basis, but that's where my debt pay down tracker is. So for 2025, I would most likely be doing this on a quarterly basis, just because I want to personally be cognizant of how I am tracking, especially with my debt pay down and my stock investing. So for somebody who is new to finance and may not really understand what a net worth is, a net worth is simply put your assets minus your liabilities. Your liabilities being everything that you owe, right? The money that you owe to other people, the bank, etc., versus what you own with your assets that you have that have value. And when you subtract the two, what you have left is your net worth. These are things that if something was to happen to you, you can sell your assets, and the net worth is what you can actually have on hand as monetary value. For me, I like to kind of start from the bottom and go up. So I usually almost always start with my liabilities and then talk about my assets and then talk about my net worth. On this spreadsheet, I have my asset divided into two categories. Unsecured debt. Unsecured debt is what I really consider not so good debt. Most debt is probably not the best, but those of us in business understand that some debt can be used to help shore up your business, or like, for example, your home, even though it's dead, but it has an asset that's appreciating in value. Unsecured liabilities tend to be liabilities that are not tied to an asset. And secured liability, that is liability that is tied to an asset. So you have a debt, but that debt also has an asset that may or may not be appreciating in value, right? Just because it's tied to an asset doesn't mean that it's like a house, it's appreciating in value. If you have a car, it's actually depreciating in value. I know the pandemic taught us otherwise, but that was a fluke. I don't know when that fluke will come back, but in general, secured liabilities have assets. Unsecured liabilities do not have an asset backed by it. So my unsecured liabilities, I have credit cards. So if we kind of go down memory lane to January 2025, when I began tracking my net worth and my budgeting system on this channel, I had $50,000 in credit card debt. I ended up paying it all up to zero. But then in 2024, I saw a big shift back into credit card debt. So now I'm back at $60,000 worth of credit card debt. That's actually lower than I was 6 months ago. But anyhow, so that is the reality of where I am at the moment. And then the next two sets of unsecured liabilities are my student loan debt. So I have $66,920 in student loan debt. I'm not really making a dent on my student loans because I really haven't been putting a lot of energy in paying that off. But in the next 3 years, I'm actually going to be setting really strong goals around the reduction of my debt in a way that I haven't had before. So that video will be coming up here soon. My other student loan debt is at $22,432. I used to have a tax liability. I'm saying I used to have as if it's already done, but I'm in the process of paying this off completely here in a few weeks at $18,780. Around June, I was at $9,000. And in December, I'm currently at $3,000 and on track to paying it off by next month. So that would be money that can be directed towards other debt. In 2024, I took on a line of credit. That line of credit started at around $35,000 at the beginning of 2024, and right now around December I'm at $17,500. So all of these unsecured loans combined are at $169,501. That is only a decrease from June of $2,852, or only a decrease of 1.68%. And if you compare this to where I was in January of 2023, so it's almost like I did all of this work and now I'm kind of back where I started. It's a decrease from the start of about 6.97%, or $11,039. So that's the decrease from January 2021, if you see it that way. But I'm kind of considering this the beginning of a whole new journey for me. But it's kind of good to see where I was from January of 2023. Let's take a look at my secured liability. So for my secured liability, after years, you guys, of never financing a car during the pandemic, it was such a rough time if you were buying a car during the pandemic. I did finance a RAV4 at $37,859. This was as of January 2023. And actually, it was the financing of that car that really hit me hard with my finances. I mean, in the past, I've always been able to kind of deal with the debt. But something about financing a car in December of 2022, actually almost exactly 2 years ago, I financed that car in December of 2022. That hit me hard. So I started in a true weekly budgeting journey, monthly financial tracking, really taking my debt pay down journey very seriously until life happened to me in 2024. January 2023, I started with $37,859. In June of 2024, I was at $26,550. And today, as of end of December 2024, I am at $20,550. That is a reduction in 6 months of $6,000, and a reduction since January of 2023 of $17,309, or 45.72%. That to me is not bad. We find some solace and some comfort for making progress on something. And you guys, I was able to make all of this progress in the past 2 years, despite me paying down $50,000 worth of credit cards in 2023, and in 2025 having a whole lot of challenges between my real estate portfolio and me moving a total of 3 times in 1 year. If you saw my year in review or the blog about my year in review, you know that I had to buy a tractor because I went from being a city girl in Los Angeles to a farm girl in Oklahoma. and it's very difficult to work a farm without having some sort of tractor. We wanted to rent a tractor, and it was going to be like $1,200 a week. That is without even including all of the attachments we needed. So I was like, I'm going to bite the bullet and finance a tractor. Is that the smartest decision? Honey, I don't know. But what I do know is that I do have this $35,000 new debt and a shiny tractor that's parked most of the time. But when we need it, you guys, it makes work 100 times easier. When it comes to decision making, especially getting into debt, hindsight is 2020, but it's never about something being a good or a bad decision. So sidetrack. When it comes to this tractor, at the time it was the best decision because I was paying somebody to come help me around the farm on an hourly basis. And you guys, it will take him, with the tractor, the work that was taking him 3 hours to do, which so like I was paying him pretty good decent money per hour. That work was only taking him like 30 minutes with the tractor. So in the end, right, at the time, it was a very good financial decision, right? Financed at $35,000, I think my payment is like $400. Considering all of the things you can do with that tractor, we can clear lead with it, etc. It's a good investment or a good piece of equipment, but it hurts. It hurts. It just means that I have to work harder and figure out and really use my money-making skills and put them to work for 2025. So now that the equipment loans are out of the way, let's talk about properties. I have 4 different properties now. My first property in January 2023, I was at $163,300. As of December, 2 years later, I'm at $153,929. That is only a reduction in 2 years of $9,371 or 5.74%. You guys. So I was always the type of person who was like, my properties are rentals. I'm not going to pay them off quickly. But when I see how little of the principal is reduced on these properties, I'm like, oh my God, right? So I'm really looking forward to getting rid of most of my main consumer debt and start paying large sums into reducing this debt, because I'm like, at a rate of 5%, now I see why we have these mortgages for 30 years. I'm like, the notion of somebody making us believe that a home is an investment, pay us over 30 years, and we'll collect all of this interest from you. I mean, that was a brilliant little, I hate to use the word scam, but if the shoe fits, because I am seeing very little reduction in principals from these properties in years of paying them. My second property in January 2023, I was at $193,556. Today, in December 2024, I'm at $186,431. That is a reduction in 2 years of $7,125 or minus 3.68%. The interest rate is a little bit higher on this property, so the reduction is lower. Now for my next property, I'm going to actually pull out the numbers. Give me a moment because I missed that. So today, my third property in January of 2023, I was at $647,936. Today, I am at $611,683.35. So that is a reduction of $36,253 or minus 5.6%. So these two properties here have almost like a similar, and it's interesting. They almost have a similar interest rate. So they're going down based on that interest rate, right? So less money is going towards interest compared to this one where the interest rate I think is almost 5%, and these two are closer to actually this one is about 2%, this one is about 3%. However, I've had this loan longer, so I'm kind of at that place where it's taking a little bit less from interest and it's giving it to principal. But in 5%, whew, in 2 years, two years. So with all of that said, let's total all of it. Before we do that, in 2024, I feel like I keep forgetting that I have this property. In 2024, I bought a property, my fourth one. So in June, I was at 366,959. Today it's 366,229. That's a reduction in 6 months of $730. Yes. 6 months of paying almost over $3,000. I know that includes insurance, taxes, etc., but only $730. That's painful. That's painful. But I have good news coming up in the asset category, so let's not cry just yet. That's a difference of only about 0.2%. And from the start, of course, I've gained about $366,229 in liabilities. So for my unsecured liabilities, the total is $1 million. From January 2023, my subtotal was $1,077,651. And today, in December of 2024, we went up by $1,373,822. So now, if you combine my secure and unsecured debt, as of January 2023, I was at $1,236,113. And as of December today, I am at $1,543,329. That's a difference from June of $12,833, and a difference from January 2024. So between June and December, my liabilities actually went down a little bit, but from January 2023, of course, because I added a whole new property into the fold, that is an increase of $307,211, or 24.85%. So this is where I stand in my liabilities. I always like to start with the bad news. Now let's go up here and look at the good news. So the way I have my assets, I have a whole bunch of checking accounts. I do not talk about them individually. I just put all of them into checking versus savings category. I just put them all into checking versus savings category. So in my checking account right now, I have $14,986. And let me tell you something. When you have all of the properties that I have, especially because they are Airbnb and guests are constantly calling me if any little thing happens, this is a dangerously low amount to have in your bank account. So this is something else that I will be offshoring and trying to increase here pretty soon. In my savings account, I have $664. I'm going to be very honest. When I have a lot of debt, I don't really focus on saving a whole lot of money. I'm really focusing on cutting back the debt as much as possible. And I keep most of like my little emergency money in my bank account, because that money is coming and going, right? It's coming and going. It's going about as quickly as it's coming, the money at this point. But I think that with some of the changes I'm about to make in my life overall, this little pattern is going to stop. Now let's look at what I'm calling kind of like my personal expenses. I do not really have a personal residence. I have automobiles. Right now my RAV4 is worth about $29,000. The tractor, I'm estimating the tractor to be worth about $30,000. So what I'm considering like my personal assets is valued at about $59,000. both of them unfortunately depreciating assets, but at least they have a pretty hefty value. And in terms of my RAV4, it really hasn't gone up or down that much because it's a Toyota. Toyota is really good at maintaining its value. It's not increasing in value, but it at least maintained its value. We'll see about the tractor. So my retirement portfolio looks like this. In January of 2023, I had a traditional IRA of $19,900. So this came from my old company's 401k. I had collected about $19,000. However, in 2024, I cashed it out to use some of that money as the down payment for the farm that I bought in 2024. The farm, I ended up having to put more money than I normally put down on a property because I bought it as a second personal residence. So the down payment was in the tune of 10%, which to me is a lot higher than the normal 3.5% that I put down. So that also really did eat into my personal savings. My 401k in January of 2023, I was around $19,000. In June of 2024, I was at $79,000. And in December, as of right now, I'm at $100,000.06. That is a difference in 6 months of $21,000 and a difference from 2 years ago of $81,000 or 426%. So we'll cheer for that. So we will cheer for that because I'm just happy to see some good news, right? Something that's going a little bit high, something that's going up as opposed to down. And the Roth IRA, I stopped contributing to the Roth IRA so that I can try to handle the debt. I'm looking forward to probably 2026 when I'm really going to get into a cadence of maxing out my Roth IRA as well as my 401k. So right now, as it stands, my subtotal of my retirement accounts in January of 2023, I started at $38,900. Today, as of December 2024, I'm at $101,000. That's an increase from 2 years ago of $63,037 or 162%. This is great because a lot of people would tell you when it comes to the stock market, the biggest challenge is reaching 100,000. And when you reach 100,000, that's really when you begin to see the shift happen to where your money starts working for you. Unfortunately, I might have to dip into some of this money just to set myself up in a good foundation for 2025 because I want to pay off debt, but I don't want to do it at the expense of my mental health. So if the money is available, I might use some of my 401k money to offset some of my credit card debt. We'll see. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to call my financial advisor and see what we can do here. Yes, the financial advisor has a financial advisor. Yes, she does. So now let's take a look at my investments. This is really where the game starts changing for me, right? Since 2015 or 2017, I am the girl who opted from using stock investments into real estate as my primary source of long-term financial wealth building. So for almost each one of my properties, I cashed out a portion of my 401k in order to put it into real estate. Now, people will always tell you don't ever touch your 401k. That is true if you're going to use it to buy shoes or to decorate your house. But for me, I took money from one asset class and put it into an asset class that significantly grows in value and gives me a lot more in terms of tax benefits, appreciation, and rental income, right? So I also just didn't buy my own personal residence. I bought rental properties with them. So for me, best decision, chef's kiss. I do not regret it for a minute, but now time to start doing things a little bit differently. I think I'm going to stop real estate investing at least for the next 2 years while I stabilize the debt and boost a third stream of income, because right now I have 2 really good streams of income. I want to have a third stream of income. As soon as I've established that, then I'll go back into investing in real estate again. But anyhow, sorry for that tangent. Let's go back to the network tracker. When it comes to my investment properties, property 1, which is this one over here that only went up by $9,000. As of January 2023, I used to use Zillow, but I prefer Redfin because to me, every time I've done an appraisal on a property, the number on Redfin was a better match on the actual appraisal than the number on Zillow. So I have changed from Zillow to now using Redfin. In 2023, I was using Redfin and the value at the time was $308,600. However, this house was appraised as of 2024 June at $345,000. And today it stands at around that number at $345,000. And that is a difference from January of 2023 in 2 years of $36,000 or an 11% appreciation. To me, that's not bad at all at 11%. Property number 2, both of these properties are right next to each other. They are almost the exact same property. They have very similar updates on the inside. So I just translated the appraisal from that property into this property as well. In January of 2023, it was worth $322,800. The appraisal was done on property number 2. I bought property number 2 years after I bought property number 1. That's why it cost a little bit more, but both of them have the same specs. On paper, this property number 1 is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but your girl converted it from a 3-bedroom, 2-bath into a 4-bedroom, 2 baths. So the specs are pretty much the same for these two. So I keep their value the same, even though on Zillow and stuff it shows a different value, but in reality I know that I can get the same for both of these properties per my realtor and my own experience in that particular market. So this one, it looks like the difference from 2 years ago is $22,200 or 6.8% or 6.9%. Property number 3. So with all of my properties, you would see me fluctuate between taking the number that is online and then me giving you a number in reality that I know that it's going to go for, because a lot of the updates done to this property are not showing up on Zillow. For example, property number 3, it shows up on paper as a duplex that only has 2 bathrooms. However, I converted it into a triplex that has 3 different units, 3 different bathrooms. So the value for it is a lot more than what it shows online. And this is based on me talking to my realtor in that area and also me kind of scouring similar properties on the market. So this one, as of January 2023, I was at $715,200, but today I know that I can comfortably get $900,000 for it, if not even more, because similar properties with the same specs are going from anywhere from $950,000 to a little bit over $1 million. Now, over $1 million is a bit of a stretch, because my property was kind of built a little bit older and I have 1 unit downstairs that kind of needs to be renovated. So 900, we sit comfortable. That is a difference from January 2023 of $184,000 or a 25% increase. Now, property number 4, I bought in February of 2024 for about $408,000. Today, as of December 2024, it is worth, this one actually went on Redfin. This is the exact number from Redfin. This is not me kind of assuming and assessing my own numbers. For this one, I'm relying on Redfin because it's really hard to do comps in rural area. Unlike in the city where every week there are houses that are being sold that matches the comps of your property in this rural area. I mean, almost everyone has 20 acres, 40 acres. So the whole city only has a population of 400 people, but they probably have the same size of the old city that I came from in Texas. So the comps are just very challenging. But I'm excited here to see that that is a difference from when I bought it of $70,920, or a 14% increase in value. It's interesting because I was really thinking to myself, I'm in a rural area, this property is probably not going to go up in value. So I was really comforted to see that it did go up in value. And what's even more exciting here, none of this is reflecting all of the work I've done to the property. The land had 2 homes on it. One home I'm in the process of fully renovating, and I also had 3 other structures on there. One I'm in the process of converting into like a little studio that would add even more value to that property. But anyhow, so these are just a reflection of what's purely online, and it doesn't reflect the money that I myself have put into it. So it's exciting. Continuing on with investments, I have what I call a mutual fund. In my mutual fund, I started in January of 2023 with $5,674. Of course, I bled that thing dry. Now I only have $500 in it. That is a reduction from January 2023 of 91%. And my HSA account, in January 2023, I started with $5,430. In June of 2024, I was at $11,000. And today in December, I'm at $15,442. That is an increase from January 2023 of $10,012, or 184%. If you do not have an HSA account, I highly recommend you get one. Of course, granted that you are healthy and you really don't have any serious health challenges to deal with. Right now, my goal is to continue investing in my HSA account until I have about $100,000, and in retirement, use my HSA for most of my medical bills as opposed to my own money out of pocket. An HSA account is a health savings plan. Now, back in the days, your employer used to be able to pay for your health insurance almost outright. We've now gone to a place where your employer barely puts $600 in that. So if you have a high deductible plan, your employer only puts $600 and that's all they contribute, and then you contribute the rest of the money. However, in this HSA account, you can use your HSA money to invest in the stock market. So for mine, I put my money in the stock market, so it is growing for me. And usually every time I go to the doctor, I'm paying out of pocket. What an HSA does, almost exactly similar to your 401k, it helps to reduce your tax liabilities. And the thing about an HSA, it's double tax benefit. It's tax-free going in and it's tax-free coming out. So if you keep putting money into your HSA account, in retirement, so for me, fingers crossed, I can get about $150,000 into retirement. With that $150,000, it would just keep growing. And when I'm retired, I will be using that account to pay all of my medical bills. Now, this one here, I think I would move this into my personal, but for now, let's just quickly talk about it. If you did not watch my year in review, please go ahead and watch my year in review. In 2024, I moved 3 different times, 3 times. And I ended up having to buy a box truck, which turned out to be a blessing, but it set me back $10,000. It set me back a little bit over $10,000. It was like $12,000 each. And I know that box truck right now, it's a U-Haul truck. I went to the U-Haul facility. I didn't even know you could do this. You can go to U-Haul and buy a truck from them. And that truck you can use for all of your moving expenses. And for somebody like me who, like, it has already paid us more than it has almost already paid for itself, because moving from California to Oklahoma, somehow that one-way trip was going to cost me $5,000. It's absolutely insane. So it made sense for me to just buy a truck. And then when I moved here, we've used it to make like 10 different trips from the farm to my parents' house to my new house where I'm staying. And next year we have plans of traveling with it to Colorado. So anyhow, that box truck right now is valued at a little over $10,000. If I was to sell it, I could get about $10,000 for it at the moment. So that is all in terms of my investments. So let's look at the total. As of January 2023, my total investments were $1,300,057.704. As of December 2024, 2 years later, my investment assets are at $2,904,000, $2,094,862. These numbers are so big I can't even say them. That's an increase from 2 years ago of $737,158, or an increase of 54.29%. Not bad, right? Not bad. So I know this video started off dicey with liabilities, but it's good to see that with each liability decision I'm making, I'm also making very good asset decisions. And let's take a look at now at all of my total assets. As of January 2023, my total assets were $1,434,516. Today, as of December 2024, my total assets are at $2,271,449. I have to say it slowly because these numbers are big. And that is a difference from January 2023. Your girl's been busy. I've been doing it. That's a difference actually from June of $133,875, right? So since June, it's gone up by 5%. This is more like what you would expect, right? But from 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago to the date, my assets have gone up by $836,930, or an increase of 58.34%. And almost all of it came from appreciation in property value. And of course, the acquisition of the new asset that I just bought, the new house that I added into the portfolio. So in 2 years, yes, I have added more debt, but I've also added about $800,000 into my asset. Now, let's take a look at what the net worth is. Let's reveal the net worth, people. Drum roll! Let's go! Okay, I have to psych myself out. Because while the asset numbers are big, we also know that the liability numbers are big, right? So I'm not deluding myself here. My total assets are at $2,271,449. And my total liabilities are at $1,543,324. That leaves me a net worth. Like, you guys, I had to calculate this over and over and over again, but it makes sense because I just bought a new property. So, duh. That leaves me a net worth of $728,125. I I'm kissing $1 million in net worth, you guys. I'm kissing it. I'm kissing $1 million in net worth. So that is a difference from June of $314,494, or a difference of 4.84% between my assets and my liabilities, and a difference from 2 years ago of $529,719, or an increase in my net worth of 33.49% since January of 2023, when my net worth was $198,406. So I went from January of 2023 having an overall net worth of $198,406 to today, in December of 2024, 2 years later, having an overall net worth of $728,125, or an overall increase of almost 33.5%. And I think this is also very interesting here when it comes to the difference from the start, or from January 2023. My liabilities have gone up by 24%, but my assets have gone up by 58%, right? So if you are going to do bad and some good at the same time. So even though, yes, I did add about $60,000 worth of credit card debt, and it sounds very scary, but for people like us, we should be thinking about it in terms of net worth. Are we still growing? So it sounds like for every dollar of liability I added $2 in total assets, or in what I own. That to me is not a bad bargain. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm not taking my debt payoff journey very seriously, not just my debt payoff journey. And I think that's really important for me to articulate and explain, especially on a group like this that focuses on empowering you guys to not just think about saving every penny, but to also be thinking about increasing your income. So in the past 2 years, my plan is to reduce my debt by over 50% by not just saving money and cutting costs and being more intentional about how I spend my money, but by also being very aggressive in boosting my income. I know my income is already really high, but boy, we need to find other ways to be bringing money in so that we can put a bigger dent into this debt, and I can relax a little bit and start enjoying life. But anyhow, so I'm going to go and double, triple check these numbers because they sound a little too good to be true. I'm not even gonna lie. But a net worth of $728,000 is really, really good. Let's say I made a mistake and my net worth is only what it was in okay, this makes a little bit more sense, because I'm like, the difference between June and December is not adding up. This makes a lot more sense to me than that. So in June, I was at $582,978, because that is reflecting the acquisition of the property, right? So with about $470,000 on that property, $582,000 makes a lot more sense. And in December, yes, that makes sense, because I have 8,000 here, 28,000, 21,000, 74,000. That's $133,000. Okay, and then when you subtract the liabilities that went down, makes sense. Okay, I feel a little bit better, because I was like, where is 300,000? Like, that number was a little bit too, like the difference from June to December was a little too high. But this one makes a lot of sense. So in a nutshell, nothing has changed. The only difference is what reflected from June to December. something happened there in my spreadsheets. When I copy paste, sometimes the formulas do not translate, but I think this is where just kind of understanding your numbers and how you're tracking is important. 582,000 in June makes more sense. In December, 728,000, and most of this is coming from the acquisition of the tractor, and it's also coming from the equity that I have built. And I don't think this equity was in 6 months, but because I don't think I really looked at the numbers in June for this property. But what I do know for sure is that from the time I bought it to today, it has gone up by $70,000. So that's reflected right there. And then of course, I've been heavily investing into my 401k and my HSA. So that's reflecting in my liabilities. I will be revamping this spreadsheet. But anyhow, so I mean, a net worth of above 700,000 is really, really good. I am already a millionaire by asset class. It will be really good to become a millionaire also by net worth. And of course, paying down the debt will help contribute to that. Hopefully, my properties will continue to go up in value, and so that maybe in the next 2 years, I can get to the 1 million net worth. That would be really good. I don't know that I will be able to get into the million income maybe in 10 years, but to be there with my assets and with my net worth is already pretty good. So if I can keep reducing the liabilities, I should be able to get there in 2 years. Between my property values going up, my stock portfolio going up, and me just reducing liabilities. So we'll see if I can be there in 2 years. There you have it, guys. So I'm a little bit comforted by those numbers. You guys, this is why I encourage you on this channel to evaluate your numbers. Get your numbers out, because sometimes when you have debt, it's very easy to go into panic mode. And when you go into panic mode, you start freaking out. You shut your frontal lobe's ability to think for you. And there was something so empowering when I put all of my numbers together on my spreadsheet. Yes, don't get me wrong, man, that debt is still scaring me, honey. It is scaring me. But in 2024, we're moving from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance. I do believe 100% that I will be able to pay off this debt, especially the credit card debt. I will be able to eliminate it quickly. I'm going with that mindset, and I'm so happy to see that despite all of the craziness of 2024, the hustling, the hard work paid off, at least in terms of net worth, right? So for me to go from January of 2023 having a net worth of less than 200,000 to now 2 years later going up to over $700,000 net worth, in 2 years I've added $500,000 to my net worth. Yes, a lot of that is acquisition of property. This is why, you guys, real estate investing is the MVP. Is the MVP of boosting your net worth. Even though I just got a phone call from one of my Airbnb guests that they lost power. So with anything that's worth doing, my dear, the reality is your challenges will rise to the level of your net worth. That is the truth. So with real estate, as you can see, 2 years, boom, just because of appreciation and the acquisition of a property, I went up by over $500,000. But guess what? My headaches, my stress is rising to that level too, right? Thank God I've now gotten a property manager, etc. But I mean, it's not easy, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And the good thing about this channel and documenting this is that it reminds you of the good side. Because when you get those phone calls, it's hard. So anyhow, thank you guys so much for joining me for another video. Stay tuned for more of this to come. If you haven't seen my new 2025 debt confession video. We are going to link it somewhere here. It will be a good one for you to see. And if you also haven't seen my year in review, we're going to link it in the description down below or somewhere up here in the cards. Interesting look at how my 2024 went. As always, please do give my videos a like. Leave me a comment below if how are you progressing on your own financial journey. Do you have debt that are freaking you out? What is your plan for tackling that debt? Let's do it together. You'll be seeing me come up with interesting ideas of bringing in income so that I can tackle that debt. We can do it, you guys. We can do it. We're not going to shame ourselves. We're not going to beat ourselves up. We are going to take action and get right to work in tackling this debt. Until I see you again, you guys have a great one, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.